What's up, everybody? We're back again for another show in the Black History Month series, and we got a good one. We got a local fellow by the name of Johnathan Molock in the building, and he's one of the co-hosts from It's Yours Radio. If you remember last week, we had Donnie Phoenix in the building, and this brother is his co-host, and he's doing some great things. And I'm not going to waste any of the brother's time. I'm going to bring him straight on in and let the homie chop it up with us. What's going on, man?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, chilling, man, chilling.
Once again, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Man, I appreciate you, man. Shout out to Donnie, man, for hooking us up, man.
For sure.
That's a good brother.
For sure, no doubt about it.
I can't remember much time at all, me being on this earth and not knowing Donnie. You know what I'm saying? We grew up in the same neighborhood.
Okay. We came up, of course, Cambridge and Easton. I Cambridge South Dorchester, graduated the same year. He went down to UMES. I went to Norfolk State. And so over the years, we always stayed in contact. And he had another show on public TV at the time he interviewed me for. So the radio opportunity came about when myself and Ron Banks were redesigning a dollar store. We changed it into what's now called Ring, which is a live entertainment venue down in Salisbury. So the owner of the station, Ron Banks, was time that he was going to be starting a radio station, and I wasn't a radio guy. I met Ron Banks originally doing my record company days over at Sony Music. I brought down an artist by the name of Ron Leslie at the time to Magic 98.9. We had a show in Salisbury. So over the years, me and Ron stayed in contact. I always listened to Donio, and he was over at Magic. And so when the opportunity came about for Ron to acquire it was called Cat Country at the time, and change it to an R&B station. That opportunity, the first one I reached out to was Donio. I said, hey, why don't you bring my man Donio back in? And he was like, that's a great idea. So originally I was just going to do a segment because I was doing major concert tours at the time, all the time. So I was just going to do a segment on his show, every so often pop in. So the first couple of times we tried it, didn't quite work out because the audio wasn't clear and the phones weren't working and things like that. So I said, okay, next week I'm gonna drive down from Baltimore and then we're gonna try it live. So we did it, and the show kind of took off, and we coming up on a 4-year anniversary, anniversary this month. #1 show on Sundays right now. So that was a little short story about me and Donio, how we got going on the radio, fortunately.
Are you originally from Cambridge?
I am.
Yeah. Because I know it's a lot of Molocks in Cambridge.
It is.
Yeah. Molocks, Cornish, Annals. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm related to my grandmother's name was Arizona Cornish, so I'm related to a lot of Cornishes. Of course, the Molocks, Campers, Thomases. So pretty big family. Born and raised right on 708 Pond Street. And another young lady that you've probably been seeing a lot in the news, a very good friend of mine. His name's Johanna Pittman. She's now the new chief at the U.S. Capitol Police, who also grew up in Cambridge, right up the street from me on Pond Street. So a lot of noise coming out of Cambridge right now, for sure.
Yeah, I want to get her on, but I haven't reached out yet.
I just talked with her a couple of days ago. I'll see if I can put that together for you.
I appreciate you, man. I'm related to a lot of Thomases myself.
Okay. We might be related. You never know.
Might be. I'm born and raised in Easton, but you know what I'm saying, it's a short distance, 8 or 12 miles. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
Bruce Wilson. I mean, I don't know if you remember Bruce Wilson. From Easton, Bruce Wilson, Donald Wilson, Tubbs Wilson, all them. Their father was a Thomas.
Okay, yeah, I'm very familiar with all those guys. Definitely.
Their father I don't think they all got the same father, but the father, one of the fathers was a Thomas. It was related to my grandmother.
Okay. Yeah, that's my set too. The Thomases. They are the most of them are out of East New Market area, but yeah, that's my set for sure. You know.
But
So,
man, how'd you get into? I mean, the music thing. What pulled you into it?
Okay, so originally I started off with the Cambridge South Dorchester. I was a marching band. I was in the jazz band as well, and the concert band. We had a band director. His name was Robert Batson, and he told me, "Hey, stayed in trouble in school. Let's just keep it 100." You know what I'm saying? He said,
we all did.
But I took 3 band classes. Right, that was the only thing. Year took concert band in the morning, then marching band in the evening, and then jazz band. So what ends up happening, he says, you know what, you better do something in music to keep you out of trouble. So he made a call for myself and another young man out of Cambridge. His name is Milton Walls, and he got the band director to take a look at us out of Norfolk State. So we ended up getting band scholarships at Norfolk State. Went down there. I met a young lady by the name of Tanya Bivens, who's the sister of Michael Bivens. And we started just talking about the music industry in general. Okay, so once again, I'm still not, seeing, my way in pretty much at this point. I ended up doing an internship with a company called High Frequency in regard to street marketing, which was called Street Promotions back then. And we pretty much just went around and put up, posters on walls and you name it, telephone poles, you name it. But it gave me a lot of experience with doing the marketing aspect. So reached out to a few record labels at the time. It was Tommy Boy who offered me an internship. So I interned for Tommy Boy Records for a little while. And then after that, I moved over to Def Jam. From Def Jam, stayed there for a short time period and got an offer from Sony Music. The first project that they ever gave me was the Fugees, Maxwell, and Groove Theory, and the Goody Mob. I'm sorry. So I stayed there for about 5 years. Of course, all of those groups broke. I decided I didn't like the record thing. Plus, the record business was going down too at the time because Napster had become a part of the music industry in a major way. So you've seen a lot of stores like Sam Goody and Tower Records and all these people go by the wayside. So, and at the time in my heyday, I had about somewhere around 200, 250 stores just in the mid-Atlantic region that I was in control of at the time. So knew a little bit about production anyway. So I started dibbling and dabbling into that a little bit. One of my friends, who's now the CEO of Live Nation, I was working for another company, and unfortunately, this guy, he gives me the bill to take over to their office one day, which used to be in Baltimore. They were called Clear Channel at the time. And me being nosy, I opened it up, and I see this guy's charging like $45 an hour for a sound guy, which was me, and he was paying us around 22 bucks an hour. So, I walked into Mike's office. I says, "Hey, look, today gonna be my last day with this company." He said, "Why? What's wrong?" I said, this guy's charging you guys about $45 an hour. We're getting paid around 22. He said, "Start your own thing and we'll assign you." So did that, started my own thing, ended up signing on with Live Nation in order to do, at that particular time, just concert tours, wherever you fit in, pretty much. First call I got was to go out with TLC as a set carpenter on a fan mail tour. The guy that they had at the time didn't quite work out. So from learning that experience, I moved from tour to tour to tour. I've been out with Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, pretty much you name it, Billy Joel, just so many over the years. Bruce Springsteen. I started the biggest festival I ever did. At the time, they assigned me to what was called the Ozfest at the time, and then I moved on from that. I was out with a band called Megadeth at the time as a backline tech. So I learned a lot about production just from doing tours and all of that. So what ends up happening then, I end up starting my own thing and then starting my own client base with promoters and of course Live Nation being the biggest promoter out there. That gave me an inside leap in that situation. And I also seen a lack of African American opportunities for African Americans in regard to engineering, anywhere from light and sound to video, you name it. We were underrepresented. So that was my end to say, listen, this industry needs to be changed, and we need some more African Americans involved in this field. So I started making noise and questioning why it was a lack of African Americans on the production side. Because I mean, if you've been to concerts, you usually see all of the guys that are running the equipment and running the stage. All of those are usually white guys, even out with a black artist, you know. So I started questioning why. So put forth the effort to become what's called a production manager, meaning that you can run an entire show, you can run an entire tour. So therefore, you would need to know about tour accounting, tour management, stage production, you name it, the whole deal, you know. So went on that lane, and I started picking up clients very rapidly in regard to your major artists. Not so much black artists, because a lot of black artists were comfortable with who they had, but I started picking up a lot of white clients and being referred. So that was kind of the idea for me in regard to getting into that, just an underrepresentation of African Americans on that side of the business. I can't hear you, brother.
I keep doing that.
Okay.
Hearing you say all that, man, it reminds me of this thing that I've had in my mind for probably over like 2 years. Now, you know, down here we got the birthplace of Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and you know, Henry Highland Garnett, Moses Vernet, all that stuff. And here we are now in February, and then well, it's too cold in February, obviously, but around like Juneteenth time.
Right.
And now we got you with all this experience that you got, and then we got It's Yours Radio.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
I don't know of any concert promoters in the area, but I do know of one well-known concert promoter. He lives in Vegas. We should put together a concert series based out of here. You know what I'm saying? When we bring in all those big names that you were talking about for an annual concert series, because you know what I'm saying, between you, Donio, and It's Yours Radio got the infrastructure.
Right.
Just need the location. I was thinking Ottawa Park, like Talbot County, Ottawa Park, or back there behind the Hog Net.
Yeah.
Or in Cambridge, out there by the Harriet Tubman visitor site.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's like something that could get done. I mean, all the experience you got, and you got It's Yours Radio. You know, you guys are trying to sign unsigned artists.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another thing we're into now. We got a deal through Collective Records, who is a legendary producer, Kyle West. I'm quite sure you're familiar with him. He did a lot of stuff with Al B. Shore. He did a lot of stuff with Tevin Campbell. We currently have an artist out now by the name, actually doing pretty well, showed up number 32 so far on the independent charts, Ricardo Williams. So we're going to be dropping another single on him pretty soon, just to see where it goes. But we are looking for unsigned artists, mostly R&B, but we're taking a look at all of it, you know, for the most part. One of the things that we do in Cambridge that we started in the last few years, we do this thing called a Groove City Festival, Groove City Culture Festival, to which I help do that. It's a volunteer thing for me. I help do that in regard to the sound and the lighting and helping them acquire the talent. The last couple of years, one year we had EU, last year we had, year before last now, we had Trouble Funk. So we've been starting, and that's been picking up a lot of steam, you know, for the last couple of years. And that's highlighting, you know, African-American artists and and you name it, vendors. We have a yacht cook-off. We do anything related to bringing light to the area and bringing light to the African American community in Cambridge. In the beginning, nobody really believed that it was going to work, and then hey, we took it with a small budget, and just reaching out to some of my contacts like EU, they were willing to work based on a budget that we had at the time to put together the festival. So this past year was going to be a marquee year because we were going to try and do it 2 days versus one, but of course, COVID came about. So we're gonna see what happens in 2021. But yeah, that's an excellent idea. Definitely. Yeah. I like to see something like that happen.
Yeah, that's been a thing that's been going around in my head. But I just moved back home. Was it 2019? Then COVID hit 2020. I just moved. I was over on Dover Air Force Base, and I just came back to Talbot County after 20 years. Okay. So, and then I had that rolling around in my head, but there was no way to implement it. Then I mean, I did bring it up to some people in the county government, but time is just not right. Right.
Well, we fought that battle too with the council at the time because they had tried something called the Groove City Jazz Festival, that really wasn't that successful, but the people that they had behind it weren't really, experienced in that field. So, they weren't promoters, they weren't, sound people, and it cost an enormous amount of money because they didn't know what was really needed. They had somebody telling them, hey, you need this much sound, you need this much, for lighting, which you really didn't need lighting for, during a day, but, this is how much, staging is going to cost and all that. So they were doing everything based off of what somebody told them, and even with negotiating talent, they really weren't really, familiar with even doing that. If somebody said, it's $10,000 for me to perform, then they just gave them the $10,000. So they kind of shied away from the Groove City Festival. And once we showed them that we really could do it, now they're totally on board, with it. So that was always a challenge, based, growing up on the Eastern Shore. It's always a challenge with the local governments and getting them on board with is something related to African Americans. That's just what it is. But so that's a great idea. I like that. I'd like to see some celebrities doing something like that too as well. Last year or year before last, they had their festival. They had Rare Essence at their festival. So I would like to see it eventually move from town to town. Like that. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see it. Every town doing it on the same day.
Right.
Right. Saying that let's migrate it from town to town because each town has this. We're represented well in each town. So let's move from town to town to town to town. Let's work our way down the shore. And
Absolutely.
Do it. Start Talbot, work our way to Dorchester, going down to Wacomico. Let's just move it on down. Because we got guys with the knowledge, but we got to get people in the counties to say, oh no, we just deal within our county. No, man, share the knowledge.
Right.
Share not, They just treat the shore like it's one place instead of multiple different jurisdictions. Let the jurisdictions be one jurisdiction just for, for certain events.
Right. I would agree. So that was kind of my lane, and so I ended up with the inauguration situation back in let's just do it like this. When Obama first took office, I was called out to do, of course, once again, I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 because that's just what I do. At the time, you had an African-American president going in, first African-American president. So of course they were looking for African-American production people that could really show that they knew what they were doing, as well as, they wanted us for a face pretty much, you know what I mean? So they started reaching out to see who was great at production. Okay, so I was one of the people that was fortunate enough to get that call. So when I got the call, they said, hey, we hear you're a pretty good leader too as well. I said, well, I said, we'll see, depends upon, what you want me to do. So I ended up doing Obama's inauguration twice over, once again, over at the Capitol. I was over at the Capitol that time. Then I ended up also getting another call from White House Communications, who's the people that always put together these presidential events. Besides the inauguration, that's the inaugural committee. So I ended up doing this thing. I don't know if you recall when Obama came to Cambridge. It was actually him and Joe Biden as well. It's a function that they do called a Democratic Caucus. So they called me for that to see if I could run that, because they wanted to hire local talent, and I was in Baltimore. They knew that, but I was, from Cambridge, so they brought me to do the whole Democratic Caucus over at the High in Cambridge. So got a call. I can't say I didn't get a call for Trump, because I did. I just decided to sit out because of some of the statements that he made in regard to Black people. So I decided to sit out. So this year, really, I didn't throw my name in a hat. I just kind of got a call and said, hey, are you available? I said, yeah, I got a call actually 3 days before the event was about to take place. So asked me when I could be in DC. I said, you give me the time and I'm there. So they walked me up to the Lincoln Memorial, and they told me what they wanted done. They said, we want to light the entire reflection pool. We also want to light the monument, and after everything that just happened on the Capitol, they wanted barricades, you name it, but we ended up getting rid of the barricades because it was just not a good look once we got the shot for TV. So we ended up removing all those. So pretty much that's how that came about, just from, my previous experience with dealing with government functions and inaugurations and democratic retreats and all of that. That's pretty much how that came about this year.
That's what's up, man. Not taking Trump's invitation. That was a good look.
Right.
That was definitely a good look.
Right. So, and that's kind of where we are. We just so underrepresented still today. I mean, since the pandemic has been a good thing for Black production managers, and because now, normally everybody would be touring, on different tours with all kinds of artists. So now that everybody's kind of sitting, thank God, I always preach, you gotta make sure that you have other businesses besides, the production part of it, because that can stop any day. So thank God that I already had, other businesses going, so it didn't really affect me, like that. But I know some people that haven't worked for anywhere from 10, 15, 10 months at least, period, and they know, when that the concert business is going to come back. But this is one of the things I preach. You always got to have 2, 3 other incomes, because you never know. One stops, then you still got something else going on. But I think that when you see the industry come back, you can see it come back in a strong way, particularly for African Americans. I was just part of a conversation where it's different organizations now that are, you got Black Roadies. It's a Black Roadie Coalition. It's a Black Production Coalition. You got Live Nation Urban, a good brother over there. His name's G. He stepped up, and we've enlightened, we've enlightened Live Nation they need to be more inclusive in regard to African Americans. So they've committed to, by the year 2025, having a minority on the board of directors. They also have decided to have contracts and things set aside for African American audio companies, video companies, you name it. So it's going to be a lot of opportunity out there for us, because most of the we know when you operate in that industry, that we are not represented like we should be represented within that industry. So we brought it to Live Nation's attention. We brought it to a lot of other larger promoters attention that, you know, we're not gonna go for this anymore. It's great for us, but what happens to the people that come behind us, you know? So that's where we are with it at this point. So we got a pretty strong commitment out of them in regard to they're going to try to be more inclusive with the hiring practices in regard to African Americans, and so it's going to be a pretty good time for us when it comes back, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the movie industry, concerts, all this stuff, boxing, everything where there can be a live audience, people going to come out like crazy when all this stuff gets lifted.
Absolutely.
Your other businesses, man. I saw like a list about a crazy long list of other businesses that you got, man. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I pretty much got a medical logistics business. I got another business that does pretty much all of the site plans and things for Baltimore Gas and Electric, as well as some other companies that I do business with. Once again, medical delivery. We do anywhere from oxygen to wheelchairs, hospital beds, you name it. We have another division that does pharmaceuticals for, like, you know, you name it, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Walmart. So those are just businesses that I started, you know, pretty much based on a concert business, you know, but for the most part, just reinvesting and coming up with other ideas pretty much. And I wanted something that also, you know, in case, you know, I was on the road, you know, I could have somebody else do those, and they would still do business without me actually running the business.
Right. We got a question from the chat from Mark Nash. Mark Nash is unsigned talent. Matter of fact.
Okay.
Out of Atlanta. He's got a question for you. He says some think a producer is a beat maker or bankroll funding a project. Can he explain to the audience what exactly a producer does in your field?
A producer, well, you got two aspects of a producer. Producer, when you're talking about production, what pretty much, let's take it from this angle. You're given a budget by a promoter, okay? And pretty much, let's just use one of the promoters I work with is called Icon Entertainment. She's a hip hop promoter primarily. We do the 92Q Summer Jam, 92Q Winter Jam. So pretty much she says, this is my budget. This is who I want to go get. So pretty much you help with booking the artist if you have a relationship with them. You design all of the staging, okay? Staging can be difficult sometimes depending upon if you're doing an arena situation, whether it's a amphitheater situation. So you need to negotiate that in regard to the size of because believe it or not, arenas don't come with stages. Well, they do, but they might not be comparable to what you need. You know, so you might need a 60 by 40 or what have you. So you need to negotiate that. You need to design the lighting. What concept? What are you going to use for lighting? And what's the concepts going to be for the lighting? Because, you know, I mean, you've been to a concert, you just don't, you know, they're just not sitting up there pushing buttons and making a lights flash. You have to come up with universes. I mean, I've been in situations when, for instance, you know, like Snoop Dogg, it's no red lights on his set, period. Because of course he's, you know, quote unquote a Crip, you know, so he doesn't want any red lighting, you know. Then you have to come up with video as well. What is your background going to look like? So all of that is designed by a production manager. Then we're talking about budgeting. What's the budget for the entire tour? So you have to manage that budget. You know, you got a budget for the load in, which is the setup. You got a budget for the load out. You got a budget for the actual show portion of it. So you manage that from start to finish. So just like you sitting down and make a beat, you sit down and design a concert. Same way, same concept. You're just doing it on a different scale. When you on a tour, now, once again, the production manager is also responsible for the day-to-day operations in regard to even down to how much fuel costs for the buses, how much labor you're using, as far as, you know, some of these shows, you know, we're running with 200 guys, you know what I'm saying? In a stadium situation, 200 guys, you gotta, you know, you might have a budget for an 8-hour load in, but the load out is gonna be a 4-hour loadout. You need to manage that to make sure you're not going over budget with that. Even with the day-to-day operations of how much this, you got vendors on tours. So, this vendor might be, PRG Sound, for instance. You got to make sure they get paid, so you're responsible for doing all of that, so you got to make sure. Then we talk about the artists. Artists come with a tour manager. So you also have to meet their needs too, as well, in regard to the artist. This is what the artist needs. It's just so much that goes into it. But comparing it to beat making, it's the same thing pretty much, but you're just doing it on a different scale. You're sitting down with a promoter. She's telling you, or he's telling you, this is my budget. It's $100,000. What can you do for me? That's it. Now, some producers, some promoters like to go and get their own, artists. They like to book their own artists. So that's cool. Then they still have to come to you with a budget and saying, okay, this is who it is. It's Jeezy, for instance. What can you do? You know what I mean? I want to do an arena show. So that's pretty much the same thing as producing music.
All right. Got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Two-part question. Easiest artist you ever worked with, hardest artist you ever worked with?
Oh, wow. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to keep it all the way 100. Probably the hardest artist that I worked with was probably Keisha Cole. At the time, she was, we booked her for an event at Pier 6 in Baltimore. And part of her agreement was to do a meet and greet after the show. Somebody had booked her in DC for a party. So we got probably, it's 2 people on that list, actually. Her and NBA Youngboy. I'll tell you that story. So we had booked her, and we probably got about anywhere from 300 to 600 people out there waiting to meet Keisha. And she decides that she's, if you know anything about Keisha Cole, she's pretty moody. So she decides she didn't want to do the meet and greet. So, I had to get on the phone with Live Nation and say, listen, she's refusing to do the meet and greet. What are we going to do with all these people? We charged them. And, and I mean, me and her got into a real shouting match. And I mean, to the point where you got to understand, these are the people that make you, you know what I mean? And you don't want to take 5 minutes out to say hi or shake their hand or take a photo with them just because she got in one of her moves. NBA Youngboy, on another hand, he's just straight ignorant. I mean, it's just I can't really go anywhere with that one. I mean, me personally, I refuse to work with him again. The promoter that I was working with in Baltimore, we booked him. Actually, we booked him twice. Once at Pier 6, once at Baltimore Arena, and he was late. He wanted to come on. He wanted to come on to the stage with about 100 people with him. Which, once again, if you ever seen one of the stages I run, that's one of the things that I don't tolerate is 100 people on stage and all of that. Plus, it's a fire marshal issue as well too. We have to abide by what the fire marshal says too. And then some of those stages can't take that amount of weight with everything else on top of it. So, he called the promoter, all kind of BITCHs. It was another situation going on. At the time, we had Moneybag Yo. It was another situation going on with Moneybag Yo. It was a big altercation backstage, and you name it. So those are probably the 2. Probably the easiest artists that I ever worked with as far as records go and touring and everything is probably Lauryn Hill. You could just, I mean, when I first met her, I couldn't take her, back then we would do we would do these meet and greet scenarios for like radio people and retail people. You could put her in a room and she could light the entire room up. When you came out of there, everybody, because each store back then had their own buyers per store, so every buyer would say, you know what, I'm going to purchase that. I'm going to purchase, 1,000 copies for my store, so she was the easiest person to get along with. In fact, we were doing something with VH1 Behind the Music, and I brought her down with me to Cambridge to speak to the students. And she wasn't quite as big as she gotten, but she was just starting out with the Fugees. or whatever. But they had one single out at the time. But yeah, that's probably the easiest artist that I work with. Just real easygoing. Everything is just, hey, whatever you want to do, kind of thing. Because some artists, they want to give you a lot of pushback. And tour managers do too. But you gotta, and so you're gonna get that. You know what I mean? Because I like, a lot of artists nowadays. I like to call it, they have what's called homeboy management kind of thing. They really aren't tour managers. They really aren't production managers, but they want to kind of tell you how to do it. So, Lauryn Hill's more, hey, whatever you guys want to do, that's what you do. Those are the artists that I like, pretty much. Or your real experienced ones that already they've done 20 tours, so they understand the ropes, and how it's got to go, pretty much.
Wow. Now, the two worst, I could see those two, but when you said Lauren, as the easiest one, that one blew me away though, because I wouldn't have suspected that one.
Yeah, she was Lauren had her issues, but like I said, I started out, me and her kind of were like brother and sister in regard to Sony Music. She was new as an artist, but the Fugees were new as an artist, and I was new as the Mid-Atlantic Regional Marketing Director. So we kind of started we went all over the place together, so and then of course, she went out and did her own thing with the Miseducation, and of course I was a part of that tour on the production side of it, because at that point I decided to get out of the record business altogether, to which I'm back. I don't know why, but we'll see where it goes. But that's it. Yeah. So that would be my that day, like NBA, I won't work with him, period. The promoter that does book him, there's only one promoter that I work with that has booked him, and she's not gonna book him anymore. So that's where I am with that, period.
Wow. I definitely saw that one coming.
Oh yeah. I could tell you some more. There's some more on that list. Couple of them. Couple of them.
I believe it.
Couple of them. As of recently, the baby being one of them. I don't particularly care to work with him. Period. I dealt with him. It wasn't necessarily him. I ain't gonna say it was him. I'm gonna just say, some of these guys travel with a crew. And it's not all the time. All the time, it's not the artist, it's the crew that they bring with them. So you get a lot of kickback from that sometimes. But yeah, he ain't one of my favorites to work with either. I'm just keeping it 100.
Yeah. You gotta watch who you hang with, especially when you're in the public eye.
Absolutely. I've had bands that, for instance, I used to tour with a band called Oasis. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but it would be, they were two brothers, so it would be knockdown, drag out fights where and one wouldn't get off the bus, and you have to persuade them to perform, and the other one says, "I'm not coming out of the hotel." And I told you, I can tell you some stories, bro. I'm telling you, it just get down to, hey, listen, either you getting on a stage or you're gonna pay triple what this tour is costing right now. But I can tell you some stories, man, real stories, So that's why I said I got a few more on the list for sure. Probably one of my better artists to work with. I got looks like it's gonna be probably about 6 shows lined up, 6 stadium shows with Billy Joel. Nice, very, very well, very easy to get along with, very laid back. So that's probably one of my favorites too to work with. Very laid back, easy going, understands what needs to happen, just in and out. He does a residency up in New York at Madison Square Gardens once a month. So that's probably one of my favorites right now to work with. And this time period,
Now, he's been at it for a long time though too. So
Absolutely.
He should, any of that other crazy stuff, he should have that. He should be past all that dumb stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I work pretty well with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Once again, they, vets at this point, with stadiums and things of that nature. So I work pretty well with them. Of course, I knew Jay-Z when he was in Cambridge. That's not how I started. You
I was
know,
about, I was about to say there should be that Cambridge connection. So
yeah. Myself and Emery Jones, we had him on ITZYOURZRADIO. To which the interview is on YouTube. But we cousins. We once again we grew up on Pine. Myself, Emery, and the young lady I mentioned, Yogananda Pittman. We all grew up on Pine Street. When I first met Jay-Z, he was staying with my cousin Emery right up the street from me. That's how I met him. I started doing tours with Jay-Z when Emery was incarcerated. You know, so but once again, that was a whole, that wasn't how my end came. It just kind of fell in place because Live Nation being a parent company of Rock Nation, so it just fell in place like that. So when it all came together, it was a great thing, pretty much.
I just used to see him around. I would see him in the nursery. I'd see him on the hill in Easton. You drive through the nursery, everybody playing ball. They be standing around. I just drive by.
Right, and see, I knew Beyonce anyway. I knew Beyonce from Destiny's Child because, of course, they were on Columbia Records at the time, and they were when I was out with TLC. Actually, Destiny's Child was our opening act, and 702 was our support act. So I knew Beyonce and Kelly and them from way back. Even before they even really made it big. I mean, they were singing like Say My Name, Say My Name. They had like probably 10, 15 minute set because, TLC was they were the biggest female group of all time. So that's how far I go back with them. So it's been a long running relationship with a lot of artists that I deal with from way back, 15, 20 year relationship.
You got a question from the chat. Mark Nash got another question. He said, the artist wants me to shoot, direct, and edit a music vid, but the fee isn't what I think I should get based on the money spent in cars, mansions, models, etc. What is a reasonable fee to budget ratio?
I would say, first of all, I always tell new guys coming in production, you gotta know your worth, because I get a lot of guys, particularly in the summer, that come out and work with us that go to, some of them are college students that that are taking, theater management and production. Some of them attend like Full Sail, and, I've came across some of the younger guys that were so enthusiastic about getting out on some of these tours, some of these, you got some, I call them sleazy production companies out there. I always work under what's called a union contract, because I'm part of the, I've met some of the younger guys that go out on tour, working 7 days a week and they're making like $1,000 a week. Well, the average person on a tour under union contract makes around $3,000 a week, plus, per diem and other fees. So I would always say, know your worth. I always valued, even now, myself, even on a lower scale, I would say, if you can't afford to hire me for at least, somewhere between $700 to $800 a day, I'm just not interested. That's just one day. I got promoters that do, day. I need you for the day, and that should be, you got to judge that based on the amount of time that it takes for you that you're gonna have to spend on that particular project. For instance, the AFRAM in Baltimore, that was a contingent situation that I did with them because when I first took it over, it was a mess. Well over budget. People weren't getting paid. Vendors weren't getting paid. People working on stage weren't getting paid. So when I first took it over, the first thing I looked at was why it was over budget and what needed to be done and who needed to go. So pretty much I came in and got rid of everybody for the most part because I didn't know who was doing what and who was not responsible. For instance, when I did an audit of what they spent somewhere around $700,000 to put on a festival that which is a free festival, but they should have been spending somewhere around $300,000 to put it on. So where was all the other money going? So that was more of a contingent contract. So so for months and months and months, I had to work with them in order to get the budgeting right, to help them once again to, find talent and you name it. So it depends on what your day rate is. I would say, anywhere between, I like to say at least $500 a day. If somebody can't afford to pay you that for your talents, then, probably they can't afford to use you. That's just where it is. You know what I'm saying?
All right. And I got one more question from the chat. This is from Reggie. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. He's from South Central.
Okay.
And he wants to know you have any experience with death row? I know you talked about Snoop with the red lights, but I guess he wants to know death row on a whole, Suge, the whole nine.
I do. Actually, when I was over at Columbia, we went to LA and we went into I think I told the story on Donio's on a show with Donio. We went into it was myself and another gentleman. I ain't gonna mention him, but we went into his office, meaning Suge's office, and it was the weirdest scenario that I ever seen in my life when we went in there. Two Rockwallers sitting in the office, it was probably about,
was he
30 people, 20, 30 people, and it's just random people standing around, and that's just what it was. We had a young lady on our radio show that she wrote a book called, Surviving Death Row, real good book. We had her on for an interview. She interviewed with Donio. But yeah, I had experience. Wasn't a real pleasant experience, I can tell you that one for sure. Without me elaborating. I'm telling you, yeah, really weirdest situation I ever seen in my life. At any, and I, during this time, I'd have been at pretty much every single record company from old school to new school, and it was the weirdest situation I ever seen. But I can tell you this: we weren't, the business never got done, and we weren't long getting out of there. I can tell you that. I can guarantee you that one, because the person that was with me at the time, they were shaking in their boots, and we had just came from, we just came from a meeting over at Capitol Records, so which was totally different atmosphere than what you walked into at a death row. That's for sure. So so this was a white guy, and he was super nervous. Period.
He poured a Nino Brown on you.
You better believe it. I'm telling you, you better believe it. Me, I was cool with the situation, but it was just, this dude was like super, super duper nervous, period. I never walked into anybody's office where they had, two Rockwallers in the floor, pretty much on either side of the desk looking at you. You sitting there trying to talk about business. Never seen that, especially coming from an atmosphere. Like I said, we just left a meeting at Capitol Records at the time, so never seen that situation before. But
he had a cane with the sword. Sit your $2 behind down before I make change.
For real.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
Yeah. So that was my experience there. Needless to say, nothing got done. It was just in and out primarily. Hey, the guy I was with, he said, yeah, we'll call you on the phone. He was just too nervous. He said, I was nervous. I was going to say the wrong thing. We might not make it out of there. That's what he said. That's where it was,
Man, that's too funny.
Yeah, yeah, man. I tell you, 20 years in the entertainment business, and pretty much I've done it all now, from radio to records to production, which rarely happens. Really, either one way or either in one thing or another. So I can truly say I've been blessed enough all the way around and be a part of everything in the industry. You know what I mean? Because it rarely happens. Either you do production or you do radio or whatever. But I've been blessed enough to be able to do it all. So which is a real good blessing.
Right, most definitely. So as far as the they're looking for unsigned China, what's the website that people should send their clean music to?
Yeah, clean version to ITZYOURZRADIO@gmail.com.
It's issue. That's ITZ.
Yeah.
YOURZ
Right.
radio at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Yep.
So everywhere there's supposed to be an S, put a Z.
There you go. There you go. That's a great way to put it. Yep. So yeah, we are looking for unsigned talent. And we offer some pretty good deals right now too as well. So we always looking. And like I said, so far we got one artist out. He's doing okay. We're looking to drop another single on him. And we just brought on some new producers too as well. So so we always looking. We're looking for producers. We're looking for writers. We're looking for you name it. We're looking to bring you on. We got a lot of vets with us also that are part of collective. That's why it's called collective, because we make all the decisions, myself and Donio, as well as Kyle West. We have an executive board, and you know, we got a lot of industry vets with us, you know, former, you know, CEOs of MCA Records, couple guys in there from Def Jam, couple guys in there from Interscope. So we have a pretty diverse group. Actually, you know, our attorney is Andre Harrell's wife, you know, so so we got a pretty good group of people. So we're looking to see where it goes, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes too, man. I want to see y'all do big things, man. Put the shore on the map.
Yeah, we're trying to, brother. Definitely.
Mark Nash, that's the right email. Mark Nash said he's gonna submit something today.
Okay, cool. We will be looking for it.
All right, so brother, tell everybody where they can connect with you on what's your social media platforms and everywhere that people can link up with you.
Okay, you can get me. You can catch us on Sundays, of course, on live97.5.com or It's Yours Radio. You can get us on 97.5 FM. If you want, what is that? Tune in. We're under 97.5 Everything Urban on TuneIn on Sundays. That's myself and Donio on each and every Sunday from 4 to 7. You can connect with me on Facebook at Johnathan Molock, like it's spelled up on this interview on Facebook, or you can get me at JMolock106 on Instagram too as well.
There you go. I appreciate you, brothers. This interview could probably go for another 2 hours.
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? All the stuff that you done, man, over the past 20 years, man. This could go for another probably at least another 2 hours.
I'll tell you, man, it's been my pleasure for sure. Anytime you want me on, feel free to reach out. Definitely.
I definitely will, man. And I'm definitely going to get you back on, man. Most definitely. Got to do that.
Definitely. No doubt about it, brother. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Everybody, thanks for coming through. And we're going to go ahead and get up out of here because got some stuff to do. So thanks, everybody, for coming through. And we'll see you on the next show. Peace.